Hello, and welcome to the Muses Lab, your destination for all things spiritual, sensual, and pleasurable. Here, I explore the nuances of our human experience, connect with practitioners to support your glow up, and share my lessons and blessings as perspective to move you closer to alignment and self-empowerment. I invite you to join me on this adventure of discovery, and hope what you receive inspires you to become the muse of your life's journey. So without further ado, let's explore. Hello, and welcome to the Muses Life Podcast. It's your girl, Siobhan L. And now I have to pull up my phone. I had posted a message on Threads not too long ago. I will give you a timeline, but it's not. The timing is irrelevant. Just know that I posted this. And I'm gonna read what I posted soon as I find it. So I'm gonna read verbatim what I wrote because it's like a thread. I didn't realize I had that many likes. So I shared, this has been on my mind for a couple of hours, and at the date that I posted this, it was December 5th, 2024, 2024 when I posted this. There's not enough chatter about the importance of dating while healing and unlearning. Being in isolation doesn't afford us an opportunity to learn and apply. We soak up all this knowledge in a self-contained vacuum and miss out on experiences with others in a soft way. I feel like the heal before dating narrative doesn't account for the small pockets of intimacy we can experience that afford us to practice, air quotes, and gently come out of our cocoon and integrate. We chat a lot about healing, but integration rarely enters the conversation, and I believe this is where most of us fall short, feel discombobulated, and ultimately retreat back into isolation and convince ourselves we don't know how to have relationships with people. Being in isolation is great for getting attuned to your own voice, but if you never fully re-enter society, how will you know what level of healing you're on and what needs more work and fine-tuning? We can have containers and safe spaces to learn and grow, but we have to equally include spaces for application that encourage integration. I mean, after the coaching, then what? Just send people out into the world with no coverage? As my boo Evan McCreary would note, it's not a full cycle of completion, and it's time we talk more about cycle completion than just entering a healing portal of warm blankets and tea. I know why that got as many likes or as much traction as it did, because there's so many of us that have been on our healing journey that have gone into abstinence and done the things, and now we don't know how to go outside. We don't know how to go outside and have intimate relationships with people. And that's because we've isolated ourselves. We've said, no, I don't want to talk to this man. No, I don't want to do this. I'm on my abstinence journey. I'm on my healing journey. I don't want to talk to this person. I don't want them touching me. I don't want them feeling me. I don't want to date. I don't want to do nothing. I'm just going to be with my girls. I'm just going to be with myself. Self-care, hashtag, whatever. Right? Which is cool. I feel like I've said this I feel like I did a podcast episode on abstinence or celibacy, I should say, not abstinence. I feel like I did a podcast on celibacy. If I didn't, I am going to do one. But I'm not a fan of celibacy. I am abstinent or celibate, because there's a difference between abstaining and then there's celibacy, right? Abstaining is just like, I'm going to refrain from doing this particular thing for however long period of time. Celibacy is this journey. I believe this is how I interpret celibacy. Celibacy is this journey that one person goes on, almost like a mecca of sorts, to reclaim time. It's a spiritual journey, religious, if that's your thing, religious journey where you are attuning to yourself and coming back to yourself and reconnecting with who you are, learning your voice, all the things, right? That's how I interpret celibacy. I feel like celibacy is often a fluke. because of the healing gap in dating, because of that lack of integration. Following the celibacy path will convince you that you should not date and you should abstain, like remove yourself, ostracize yourself, excommunicate yourself from whomever, whichever human spectrum that you like, that you like to date and be with, and be in a homogenous community, because the opposite or same is a distraction. While that may be true, celibacy is taking you away from applying what you've learned. And I'm not a fan of celibacy because people think if I abstain from sex that I'm going to cure myself. You are not. That's the lie you've been sold on celibacy. You not fucking is not going to change. It's not going to change shit. Because all you're going to do is pick up another vice, because sex is not the problem. It's you. I said this on Instagram about 5, 6 years ago. Sex is not the problem. It's you. You have to work through the shadow elements of who you are as a person and how those shadow elements affect your relationships, platonic, romantic, and whichever on the spectrum you are with your relationships. You have to ask yourself, you have to go back internally and peel back the layers and do the work to understand why there's certain quirks, idiosyncrasies, shadow elements within yourself that are affecting how you navigate relationships with other human beings. That's what you do. Not, I'm going to just close my coochie off, let it get all cobwebbed up, because every time I fuck somebody, I can't, like, I just be losing it. Is it because you fuck somebody, or is it because you have expectations when you fuck somebody, and those expectations are embedded into your head and you impress those expectations onto the person that you are sleeping with, and that's what fucks you up? These are things that you have to discuss with yourself and possibly a therapist. You have to do that on your own time, but that's where I have the challenge with celibacy. It's this notion that if you stop having sex with someone, that your life all of a sudden is going to change. Like that is the thing that is disrupting your life. But sex is just energy. It's an energy exchange that you have with another human being whom you want to engage in those type of activities with, but it is you who wields the energy. So if your intentions are not to just have that experience with the person, if your intentions are seeped with or intertwined with you hoping that this pussy gets you hoping that this pussy gets them in it, and you trap them with your cooch, and it don't work that way, well, I'm gonna circle back to that in another episode because I could talk about that all day. I am celibate by default. I didn't ask, I didn't want to be celibate. This wasn't an active choice. I just have not been outside. I mean, COVID hit. So the panorama came through, and I had somebody that I was dealing with, and I talk about that. I want to say season 3, episode 5. It's a Q&A. When someone asks me, how did I become fade with sex or tap into my sexuality, I talk about the point of entry there, and that was sparked by a relationship, situationship, however we want to label it, that I engaged in during the panorama. And that person ghosted me at a time when they should not have. That person has since apologized to me. I really didn't give two shits about their apology, but they have since atoned for themselves because I didn't really give a fuck. But I was with someone then. And that wasn't the last time I was with someone. Last time I was with someone was me wanting or desiring to rekindle my relationship with male energy, with cis hetero male energy specifically. And the person that I connected with, I had a sexual arrangement with, and it was amazing. I talked about that when I had a Patreon. I talked about that experience there. And if you weren't on my Patreon, then I'm sorry you missed it. Sorry you missed it because those are the only people who got who got that one. But it's not an experience that I'm going to talk about out loud. That was very sacred for me. It was very special for me, and I wish I could have continued to engage in it. But that person is a swinger, which is fine. I don't have a problem with that. It's me. I don't want to share. That's why I'm not poly. I don't want to share. I don't. I have no challenges with ethical monogamy. Um, and people who are non-monogamous, you have more than one partner. That's your business. Just make sure when you with me, you wrap that shit up. And when you with other people, you wrap that shit up. We get tested. You know, it is what it is, right? I'm never going to force anyone to specifically be with me. Uh, I mean, great if that's your choice, but I'm never going to put an ultimatum out like that because that's not fair. I can't put guidelines and policies on other people's private parts. That's not my business. However, me, I I will not have multiple partners because I did that shit in college and that was too much. That was too much to keep track of. Your coochie gets tired after a while. I don't know, but for all of you who are poly or who have multiple partners, I don't know how you keep up because that was overstimulating for me. And this is way before I knew I had ADHD. Like that was just overstimulating for me. Like my body was tired. I was just like, I can't. This is a lot. And maybe it's because I was engaging with partners who did not pour back into me. That's very possible. I mean, college, like, what the fuck did I know about like energy exchange and stuff? All of you Gen Zers who are like attuned to yourself spiritually in that way, shout out to you. I was not that person in my 20s at all. So I commend all of you in your 20s who are very attuned to your bodies, who are deep into spirituality. I was not that deep into spirituality. I was still a church girl in my 20s. Like I didn't really get into EFI until like my late 20s, early 30s. Like so I was a totally different person then. So of course it's very easy. I could have been in communion with someone who was not pouring back into me, not prioritizing my pleasure. Like I do talk about my experiences in college where I was fucking for safety. So I talk about that. My whole phase, a lot of my whole phase was me fucking for safety. So it's obvious that I didn't really have the right partners then. But now I'm not in a space in my life where being with multiple people is something that I desire to do. Maybe that might change in the next 3 to 6 months. Life happens very fast. But at this time, that's not what I desire. I would like to be with a singular person. At least for me, I would prefer to be just with one person. I can date multiple people. That don't mean I'm about to fuck all y'all, because that's too much. You might slide me in between the two, between two people. That might happen, but everybody, like I don't have the wherewithal and the desire to do all of that. But my point is to say that after that encounter, I have not been intimate with anybody in any capacity, whether it's physically intimate or close to anybody, sharing space with anybody. I have not done that since that particular time, and that was practically 3 years ago. And I am, I have befriended someone of the male persuasion, of the cisgendered hetero male persuasion, and he's cool people. We've known each other for years, but you can know somebody and be in conversation with somebody and not like know them, right? Not be intimate with them, not completely share space and create a safe and brave space, a container for you to really deepen your relationship. And over the last couple of months, over the last year, really, we have deepened our relationship, and it's great. It He's good people, and I recognize that this is a great training ground for me to better know how to communicate with cisgender men, with straight men, because I've had challenges with that. I've had challenges with expressing how I feel. I've had challenges with being upfront. I've had challenges with saying no. I've had challenges with holding them accountable. There's a fear that I used to have where, like, oh my God, if I call them out on this, they're gonna leave and that's gonna be the end of the friendship. Well, then it should be. It should be. It should be the end of the friendship, because if you as a human being have challenges with being accountable and challenges with acknowledging where you are falling short in the confines of the relationship, the friendship that we are building, and you do not want to be held accountable or have that acknowledged, have the mirror shown with you, then I don't even know how you're navigating your romantic relationships, because this platonic relationship is trash. If you can't do that, then no, we cannot be friends, because one person can't hold me accountable, and when I reciprocate that, now that's a problem. You can't you can't be the villain and the victim at the same time. that that does not work. You got to pick a struggle. Okay? You can't be villain and victim at the same time. So, because that has been my history, it has been refreshing being able to allow this person to be openly emotional with me and to hold space for that and to acknowledge that, because I know a lot of Black men in particular don't open themselves up emotionally, because oftentimes Black women can be mean. Get your shit together. Don't say that to that man. First of all, if any man feels comfortable enough to open up to you as a woman, straight or whomever, then deem yourself special, because it's very hard for men to talk about their feelings and emotions, because they are not raised to do that. They are not conditioned to do that. So to find and be connected with an emotionally intelligent man is a rare gem. So I welcome it. You want to express yourself? Express yourself. Don't yell at me. Because sometimes men think that them yelling is expressing themselves. You don't got to yell at me to express yourself. You can be firm in what you're saying. You can use your words and speak what you need to say. You can give pauses and find language that allows you to verbalize whatever it is you're experiencing, whatever it is that you're feeling, but not never do you ever have to yell at me and call that shit expressive. Because if I yell back, then we're gonna have a problem. The mantra that I created, that I say all the time, everybody think they an asshole until they meet one. You think you expressive until this lion come out, and then it's, oh, this bitch crazy. I'm a reactive person. That's how I am. I've made peace with that. And I respond to how you respond to me. I reciprocate that back. So if you gonna yell at me, I may yell back, because I'm gonna diffuse the situation first, because it takes a lot of energy for me to be on 10. I could get there very quickly, but it's a lot of energy for me to be on 10. And when I'm on 10 or 1,000 trillion, trying to bring me back down to like a 5, good luck. Because when I'm there and I'm there for a while. So my natural response, now that I'm more aware of my energy, my anger, and my rage, is to defuse, to de escalate. So while you're yelling at me, I'm going to speak to you in low tones, because I'm not going to initially respond, even though my words may be cutting, because that's not going to turn off. But I'm definitely going to speak in low tones, so you can acknowledge that I hear you yelling, but I'm not going to respond in kind yet. If you continue to yell whilst I am speaking in low tones, I'm going to go up an octave. If then the yelling is still ensuing and progressing, I am going to yell. And then it's going to be, who the fuck you yelling at? Well, nigga, you just been yelling at me for the last, I don't know how many minutes. Now it's visceral when I yell. Because when I yell, there's a wall banging, there's a hand clapping, there's a banging upon the table. All them things is happening when I yell, because I'm dramatic. So the last thing you want me to do is yell. So I'm fine with men being expressive. I'm fine with emotionally intelligent men. You may say some things. I like directness. There is the stigma that women don't like the truth or can't accept the truth. I'd rather you tell it to me now because I know how to navigate rejection, hurt, disappointment because I live in that space. So I know how to navigate that. That's not unfamiliar territory for me. I know how to navigate all those areas because a lot of my emotional foundation is rooted in disappointment, shame, grief. Unfortunately, it is. But because of that, I can handle things that don't feel good immediately and will take me time to process, but I can come back and speak intelligently about what I've processed. I know how to synthesize that very well. So I want you to be direct with me. I welcome that. But again, if you gonna go low, absolutely gonna go to hell. So be very careful. Be very careful how you navigate that. Be emotionally expressive. I hold space for that. Share your emotions, cry, get frustrated. I want you to do that. I'm going to hold space for that. And I'm not going to ridicule you or condemn you for doing that or be condescending because you're doing that. I welcome that because that lets me know I'm not alone in how I'm feeling. And I know emotions mean you care, at least for me, because the moment I don't show you any emotion, I couldn't care less. That's the last place you need for me to be. You want me to yell because yelling means I care. If I don't yell and I laugh that shit off, good luck. I ain't got nothing for you, my man. Can't help you with that. So I'm happy that I'm experiencing this relationship. I'm gonna call it a relationship. It's not romantic, but it is a relationship, right? I'm happy that I'm experiencing this relationship with said gentleman because it's allowing me to apply what I have learned in isolation. And I have been in isolation for a very long time. There have been small breaks in between moments. There have been moments in the timeline where I have shared space with other men, but essentially, I have been in isolation in this healing space, in this healing journey, because it's ongoing, and this healing journey for a very long time. And those breaks allowed me to assess where I'm at and what I need to improve upon. But I still haven't been in a space where I can apply what I've learned. And I shared something on Instagram stories. My girl Zania, shout out to Zania, aka Nail to the Wall. She sent me something from one of the women from tonight's conversation who talked about not healing in isolation. She was like, "Girl, you said that." I did on December 5th on Threads. I did. And I shared that on Instagram and I went a little deeper. I did say that this was going to be a podcast episode, but I went a little deeper because what I'm noticing is that men like me and there's often sexual tension between me and said men or man, and they are trying to figure out if that sexual tension is supposed to evolve into something physical or if that sexual tension is creative partnership. And I'm starting to come across men who I recognize the sexual tension and I want to be physical with them. It's me. I'm the nasty one. I want to be physical. But they are afraid to be physical with me because, in their experience, when they have done that, the women who they have opted to be physical with have lost their shit. I know I was one of them. I've had that experience. I, I thought I could hold responsibly. Yeah, I was not hold responsibly at all. I was losing my shit. But I was losing my shit because again, as I said previous, I did not know how to properly communicate my feelings. I was scared I was gonna lose somebody, which is fine if I did. That just meant we weren't in alignment. And I did not have enough confidence in myself to just be like, fuck it, this where I'm at. Like I know we've been in the back and busting it open for this amount of time, and I know we said blah 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 blah, but I'm catching feelings. And I don't know if you're catching feelings, and I don't know if you are open to exploring what that looks like, but I just want to acknowledge that I'm catching feelings. And if you're not catching feelings, it's fine. I know how to move accordingly, but I want to say that. I want to put that out there and allow them to do with that information what they want to do with it. But my task was to be honest about what I was feeling and not compartmentalize my feelings and then get mad when I would see said person with other women and think to myself that I was the only person. Wow, I would think that. That's dumb. That's not even smart. But to see them be open, because a lot of these relationships or situationships, I should say, a lot of these situationships that I was in where it was creative partnership when we was bending the back and busting it open at the same time, those things were happening in the dark. It was not an outward expression of that. No one knew unless I said something to someone or that person said something to someone. All of those things were happening in the shadows. And these particular men were flirting and being openly intimate with other women, light in the light in my face. And instead of opting out and believing that I deserved better, I allowed it to happen. And I allowed myself to be abused. Okay. I acknowledge that. I acknowledge that those men are trash, but I also acknowledge that I allowed myself to be trashed by men. Right. So I have to take accountability for that. And as I've gone through those lessons and being in space, right, I recognize that the men who probably are more mature and have been honest about where they are with certain women have experienced a me. And because they value the evolved version of myself, they value my friendship and what I bring to the relationship that we have built, the intimate relationship that we have built. They value that. They are afraid that if they sling some dick my way, that I'm going to lose my shit. But I can now acknowledge that I'm an adult and I better know how to communicate my feelings and my emotions and what I'm experiencing. And at this time, I'm not necessarily looking for anything committed, but I want to be in companionship with someone. I want to be in an intimate space with somebody. I want to snuggle. I want to Netflix and chill or whatever we do. Peacock and chill or the Hulu and chill, like whatever. I want to do that. I want to do that. I want to hang out. Like you going to this event, I want to go. I'll be your plus one. And if we, uh, I'm gonna put the rules out there. We plus one in, right? If we not plus one in and acting like this a date, if we plus one in and we just hanging out, I don't want to hear shit with some man be up in my face hollering hard. I don't want to hear it because I'm gonna let you do you. If you want me to be the wing woman, I can be. I'm gonna let you do you, but I don't want to hear nothing. If somebody all up in my all up in my ear, all up in my atmosphere, I don't want to hear it, right? So I'm open to hanging out, being your plus one, and I'm open to those things. Like I want to do that. I want to do that, but I'm finding that it is challenging for me to find men who wants to have that experience, not just with me, but just like in general. I'm finding it challenging to come across men who want to do that. I would be fine with having a sexual arrangement because I need my cookies fresh. I need my cookies fresh. But I want to because I want to date outside of getting my cookies fresh. I want to date. I want to date and I want to get a metric of where I'm at on being able to autonomously stand firm in who I am and communicate, work on effective communication, work on being true to myself, work on holding myself accountable and holding my friend accountable or the person I'm dating accountable, being expressive about what I want and standing firm in that and being okay with if that person doesn't jibe with that letting them walk away and not holding someone, holding their feet to the fire and forcing them to be where they don't feel like they belong. I want to get better at that because I want to let the universe know, let the divine know, let the atmosphere and the stratosphere know that I want love. I'm I'm getting better at loving myself. I love myself, but I'm deepening my relationship with love with myself. And as I am deepening my relationship with love with myself, I want to love on someone else. I love my girlfriends. I love my girls, my sisters, my sisters. I love them. I love my family. I love them. I want to love someone romantically. I want to be in love. And I don't think I've ever said that out loud, like admitted that out loud. Like I want to be in love. And maybe that comes with one person. I don't think so. I want to be in love. I want to experience love because I don't feel like I should be isolated from experiencing that. I used to think that I had to have my shit together in order to date, in order to put myself out there. But I feel like if I keep putting these guidelines and these parameters on myself, just in life in general, and saying that in order for this to occur, these if then statements, right? In order for this to occur, then this has to happen. Like I have to be at this phase of the journey, this part of the journey in order for me to experience XY. That's so wrong of me to do that to myself. I feel like it's a disservice for me to put a unnecessary metric on pleasure and joy and love and sensuality and all those things. It's wrong for me to do that. I should not do that to myself. So I want to go outside. I want to invite gentle but firm and protective and strong and sensual and accountable male energy in my atmosphere so that I can match that in my own way. And I want to invite it into my atmosphere so that more can come my way, so that I can redevelop and reignite the frequency of that energy and build community around it. And some men may be platonic, creative partners, right? And some men may be persons who I become physically intimate with. But I want to invite that energy to me. I want to call that energy to me because I'm ready. And not just I'm ready, I deserve. I deserve to integrate all that I've learned up into this part. Because how am I going to know? How am I going to know where I'm at? How am I going to know what I need to work on? How am I going to be able to apply what I've learned if the scenarios, if the situations, if the men aren't there? How am I going to know? I can't know if I have met level 1 because this shit is level. I will not know if I have completed level 1 if I am not placed in a position to apply what I've learned. But I also have to be careful with that because the universe has jokes, God has jokes. The divine has jokes, and they will send me someone or a scenario where it's very visceral, and I'm not trying to learn and from a visceral place. Please don't send me no trash ass motherfucker. I am done. I'm done dealing with gutter juice dudes, okay? Please do not do that to me. But I do know that I have to apply what I've learned, that I have to complete the cycle. I can unintentionally abstain and be celibate and go through this healing journey and do the shadow work and uncover and unpack and condition and declutter and decolonize. I can do all of those things. But the part of the cycle that's complete is the integration. And I cannot know where I'm at until I integrate. And I know, I was going to say I know that we have to talk about how to apply what you learned in the dating sphere. When this scenario comes up, how do you respond? Ticia, the dating coach based out in Maryland, I believe she's originally from Chicago, but I believe she's in Baltimore. She's great. I love her content. She is a dating coach. Shay Promise, a millionaire matchmaker. Also great dating coaches. But I don't know if in their private ecosystems, in their chat groups, they talk about integrating what you've learned. I don't know. That may be reserved for people who pay into their communities and things of that nature, which is fine, right? But for the people who that may not be accessible to or may not know that women like this exist, there has to be more conversation about integrating the scenarios on what to say. You've done this in the past. How would you respond now? What does that make you feel like in your body now? How's your mind pacing now when you hear that? What is the initial response your body gives when said person does this particular thing? Is it a past response? Are you giving yourself time to pause and process? Are you giving yourself time to pause, process, and synthesize before you respond? Are you still reacting emotionally? Are you acknowledging your emotional reaction? Maybe even saying that out loud and saying, like, I need time to process and synthesize what you said. How would you respond now after you've done that part? Are you still feeling the same way? We want to acknowledge and validate your feeling. But if you're still having a reaction that you would have a year ago, 10 years ago, 5 years ago, then maybe that's a part that you still need to work through. And then you can get to the root and you can continue the work so that you can be good for the person who is for you, whoever that person may be. Yeah. We have to talk about integration because if we do not integrate what we've learned, we're just sitting on knowledge and information and it's just what is it doing? If we don't apply what we learn, how do we know? We can talk about in length all the things that we know, all the information that we have acquired, all of the tools and the knowledge. Like we can talk about that in length. That's theory. Where's the practice? Practice is in the action. Practice is in the application. And we can mince back and forth. We can mince words. We can chat box back and forth about the theory of dating and relationships. Because that's the shit that we do on social media, right? Everything that we're talking about on social media is theory. It's thoughts and opinions, perspectives. That's theory. But take that shit off social media and then what? How do you apply? Where's the story time? Because the story time is the application. You're a content creator, bookmark that. The story time is the application, is showing how you have taken what you've learned and what you have experienced and applied it in some form of fashion, right? Talk about application in the podcast with Kaylin Duvalier. She talks about seeing astrology and seeing the transits and taking all that information and then applying it throughout her day. So we're coming off Mercury retrograde and tropical Saturn, right? Mercury goes direct. As the day that I'm recording this podcast, Mercury is going direct today, and we also have a full moon in Gemini. So you can read astrologers what their insights are and guidance is on the day. What that means, truth coming to the surface, confusion unraveling. The moon is square, having a little conflict with Neptune and Pisces, right? These are all mutable signs. So we can surmise the guidance, we can pull the insights, we can pull the information. So now that we know basics, right? Let's just stick with the communication part. Full moon in Gemini and Mercury and Sagittarius going direct from retrograde. So let's take our communication, right? So now we may have some clarity on specific situations, whether it's situations with yourself, situations with your partners. If we apply Gemini and Tarot, that brings us to the lovers, right? So partnerships, relationships, marriages, contracts. those things, right? So we have some clarity on that atmosphere, that space in our lives, right? Confusion that we may have had, questioning what our purpose is in life or what our purpose is with this particular relationship. So now that we have that information, how do you apply that? How do you have the conversations with friends? How do you have conversations with your business partners, with your creative partners? How are you then journaling with yourself? How are you shifting? We're now at the close of the Gregorian calendar year, right? We have 2 weeks left in the year. How are you now applying this to your vision boards, your mood boards, your life audits, your bingo cards, your goals, what goals that you want to accomplish personally, professionally, in your creative life, in your businesses? How are you applying this information? How are you now unraveling the confusion and understanding where the gaps are with you figuring out your purpose, your destiny, and what you're supposed to be doing? Less of the confusion and more clarity around your relationships, contracts, marriage proposals, interactions, friendships, so on and so forth. How do you now apply that? That's what I'm talking about as it pertains to the application. You have all these insights that you have acquired on your celibacy journey. You've learned all these things about yourself doing the shadow work, right? You've learned all these things about yourself with your inner child, your adolescent self, your teenage self, your 20s, right? You've pulled all that information. You've done, if you identify along the feminine spectrum, you've gone through your mother womb. You've done some shadow work with the maternal and the feminine energy in your life, right? So you've done all this work. You have all this knowledge. You have this book, book of shadows, grimoire, if you will. You have all this information, this publication of all the things that you have learned. So how do you apply that? How do you know what chapter and what verse, what phrase to apply to whatever scenario you're in now? Did you even think that far? That's the integration part. It's like school for yourself, life school, right? Grab a textbook of all the things that you've acquired and amassed, and all the different healing journeys that you have gone on, right? Your eat, pray, love moments, right? You have all that information in this Bible of self that you have created. What chapter and what verse do you apply to the situation that you are in now? Answer that for yourself. If you are not in a space to do that, if you did not think that far, if you don't even have a collection of all that you've learned, whether it's your mental filing bank or journals or notes that you have written over the years, that's a problem because you're not in a space of application. You're in a space of consumption. And as we are navigating our relationships, particularly our romantic relationships and we're dating, if all you do is consume and you don't ever put what you consume into practice, you are going to repeat the same patterns. And as an ADHD girly, pattern is what I do. What I do is recognize patterns. People have been engaging in my pattern recognition for years and I didn't even know what it was. Somebody posted a thread on that. You're not into that man. You trying to solve him, trying to figure it out. And it's your pattern recognition. Matter of fact, here I'm going to the phone. Going to the phone again because I want to read that in totality. And I looked at that thread 5 or 6 times because I had to keep reading because it wasn't clicking for me, right? I'm not, this was specific to autistic women. I'm not diagnosed with autism, but autism and ADHD run a very fine line. There are intersections between autism and ADHD, right? So I may be somewhere along the spectrum. I don't know. I haven't been tested, but this resonated with me, right? This is by as read by Kara, right? That's their name on Threads. As read by Kara, Karah. I don't know which autistic woman needs to hear this, but you're obsessed with him because he's an equation you cannot solve. He is engaging your pattern recognition. boop, 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 boop. Trying to figure somebody out, period, right? Full stop. Try to figure this person out. I can't figure this person out. I don't understand why they're doing this and da. Pattern recognition. I'm a snap. Pattern recognition. That's it. That's why you keep cycling through the same archetype of men or archetype of person, whomever you're dating. They're engaging your pattern recognition. They're not an equation that you can solve. You're trying to find the pattern so you can figure it out. It's clicking even more as I'm saying it out loud. You you are trying to find the pattern so you can go, ha, I got you. You don't. You're not even into that person. Me and Aisha talked about that in the last episode. You're not even into that man. This is why we gotta apply what we learn, right? Where's the integration? Where's the notes of integration that recognizes that you have challenges with pattern recognition and you get caught up in the glitz and glamour of a particular person because they are enticing your newness, your newness function, because you might be an ADHDer, but even if you're not, there's a newness function as women that we gravitate to, that this particular man is charismatic, or he's fine, and some he says, and his stature, and blah, 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 right? All of those things, we caught up in the chaos of that. And once we come out of the chaos, we're trying to understand why this person it's such an enigma. It's because that's not for you to figure out, boo. They're an enigma because they're not for you. Because any person that is for you will not purposefully be a maze for you to try to solve. They will not be a labyrinth. They will not continuously engage your pattern recognition because you're recognizing certain patterns and you're trying to figure out how to solve X for Y. Gotta let it go. So, where in your integration book of shadows is the chapter where you realize that you engage in new shiny things and you get caught up in new shiny things, and you have to recognize that you are now allowing this person to engage in your pattern recognition, and you're trying to solve for why this new shiny thing is not interacting with you the way that you want them to interact with you. Where is that chapter so that you can figure out that this is what you're doing and what you learned from that and apply that there? That's the integration. If you don't have that, that's the chapter you need to write now. Pattern recognition. How to not treat men like an equation that I need to solve. And you're welcome. Maybe I'm an integration coach. I don't know. But I'm recognizing this need in general, not just with dating, but just in life, right? I'm recognizing the need in general, and I'm applying it to myself first. And once I master it just a little bit, enough for me to share, I'm going to share with you all. But for now, I want you, those of you who are listening, if you stayed this long, because I know I'm yapping. I want you to sit with that. How are you integrating your notes? I tell you to check your notes, but I tell you to check your notes because there's information in your notes so that you can integrate and apply what you've learned from your notes. And if you're not integrating and applying what you've learned from your notes, you just write notes. It's consumption. It's theory. When you put your theory into practice. Yeah. Yeah. I'm going to stop there. Maybe this will be a part 2. Or maybe this will be an offering. Provide. I don't know. But there's so much more here that needs to be unpacked. So maybe this will be a part 2. Maybe this will be a series. I'll flow where spirit takes me. My shoulders are moving again. I'll flow where spirit takes me, but to put that, turn your theory into practice and start integrating your notes so that you can have proper and effective relationships with people, whether they're platonic or romantic or creative. Yeah. Thank you for tapping into the Muses Lab. And until we meet again. Thank you for tapping into the Muses Lab. I hope you enjoyed this week's adventure. Be sure to like this episode,
subscribe on your favorite podcast platform, and share the wealth with others. Sign up for my newsletter and join the TML community at www.themuseslab.com. Receive weekly musings, early access and exclusive drops, as well as discounts on products and services. Thank you once again for tapping in, and until next time.